first exercise that every architect, every designer do is to understand the context. And the context is all about the people who are going to occupy the buildings that or the built environment that you are designing. And it also has a influence of a microclimate response of surroundings. Everybody wants to come in an urban environment for the personal growth, for the growth of the nation, for the growth of their particular community, and so on. So our challenge, while this particular situation is inevitable, how do we, as an architect, as a designer, to make this particular growth socially sustainable?
Our role or the influence of our power is dependent on our relationship with the client. If we can convince one client to kind of have a setback, have more greenery, have more planting, then we're really being a better neighbor. It's the largest more spherical structure in the world. It's much wider than it is tall, 2 million LED packs.
My name is Pooja Tiwari and I'm extremely delighted to welcome you all to episode 13 of VC Live Season 3. If you're joining us for the first time, VC Live is presented by the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, an initiative by Godrej Locks and Architectural Solutions. GVCC is a vibrant community of over 2,000 architects and designers across India, brought together to share ideas, explore innovations, and champion meaningful design. If you haven't joined us yet, just click on the link in the chat box and become the part of this growing community. Let us take a moment to see what GVCC is all about.
Welcome to the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, where innovation meets collaboration. GVCC is a unique platform for architects and interior designers to merge their creative visions with our innovative product offerings. We aim to cultivate a network of thought leaders driving innovation and excellence in the industry. Celebrate your achievements with our GV's Awards, recognizing innovative projects across various verticals. Join our community through exhibition visits and masterclasses to stay updated on the latest trends and technologies. Enjoy exclusive access to new products, special discounts, and tours of our Mumbai and Goa plants. Join the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club today. Be part of a community that values innovation, collaboration, and sustainability.
Godrej Locks and Architectural Solutions, a leading and trusted home safety business, has announced the launch of its latest brand campaign, Befikar Living Unlocked. Introducing the next-gen Advantage IoT 9 digital lock, the campaign highlights Godrej's commitment to enhancing home safety through innovation with a new television commercial that creatively addresses everyday safety concern. Let's have a look at the TVC.
Thrusters.
Check. Door lock check.
डोर लॉक घर का डोर लॉक किया था या भूल गया घर का लॉक फटाफट से चेक करके आऊं क्या
ले आइए गोदरेज IoT 9 डिजिटल लॉक 9 सिक्योर एक्सेस मोड्स ऑटोमेटिक लॉकिंग ट्रिपल बोल्ट और कई एडवांस फीचर्स अब घर के अंदर या बाहर रहो बेफिक्र
घर जाते ही गोदरेज डिजिटल लॉक लगवाऊंगा
VC Live is a monthly thought leadership series that brings together industry pioneers to explore the future of architecture and design. Across seasons, we've explored everything from smart living to material innovation and human-centered design. This season's theme is Future Forward, explores how innovation, sustainability, and people-first thinking are reshaping the way we live, work, and experience spaces. Today's session, From Towers to Togetherness, zooms in on how architects are designing large-scale projects that connect people, foster community, and inspire shared experiences. We will also have an engaging Q&A in the end of the session, so drop your questions in the Q&A tab as we go along. Let's begin by welcoming our first speaker for the VC Live, architect Sandeep Shikre from SSA Architects Mumbai. He leads a 400-plus professional practice and is a pioneer of sustainable, high-rise and human-centered architecture in India. A lead AP and founding member of the IGBC Mumbai Chapter, he champions green building practices and believes architecture should harmonize space, people, and happiness. Today, he will share insights on designing high-rise and large-scale projects that prioritize human experience, connection, and community engagement. Let's hear it from architect Sandeep Shikre. A warm welcome, sir.
Warm welcome, Pooja. It's always a great delight to meet you.
Likewise.
And warm welcome to all the viewers. I must compliment efforts by Aditya and his team for arranging this very thoughtful session. I think the format of this particular session is quite nice. And I'm also very delighted to have Zakiah from Populous with me sharing this particular forum today. Well, so we both had a discussion and we thought of creating a topic which is more relevant. And the topic is about the current situation where we have a huge pressure for the rapid urbanization. Practically every city, every mega city, every metropolitan city is going to face this particular situation for the next 1 decade. So the topic is Towers to Togetherness. Let me begin my presentation. Give me a moment. I hope my screen is visible to you, Pooja.
Yes. You just do it a full screen, sir.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. So the thought here is to quickly address current scenario with the rapid urbanization and the challenges that we are going to face in a built environment. I always feel architecture is a quest. It's a continuous learning exercise. After even 30 years of practice, I feel this profession is very exciting because it deals with a very dynamic situation of the society and the changing lifestyles that we all face. That's why it's very interesting and very exciting. And this particular perpetual continuous learning phase is continuously on in every designer's mind. When we talk about today's topic, we can see the global context where by 2050, 60% of our world's population will be living in the cities, concentrated just on 3% of the Earth's land. So you can imagine the kind of ratio of land available and the built environment that we have to do. And by 2060, the world will have built twice as much as it exists today. In India, it's no different story. We have only 3.7% of our Indian land as an urban land, and yet it will house almost 37% of the population, which will go to 50 or even 60% of the population in coming 1 decade. Our population is constantly rising. It's already reached 600 million. It will reach 600 million by 2036. So we can see the kind of numbers which are real-time numbers. The urban growth, which is a need of an hour, where everybody wants to come in an urban environment for the personal growth, for the growth of the nation, for the growth of their particular community, and so on. So our challenge, while this particular situation is inevitable, how do we, as an architect, as a designer, to make this particular growth socially sustainable as well as functionally sustainable? And also we look at the climate resiliency. So if you could see that this density, besides being able to develop a good results from the engineering point of view, from the functional point of view, we have to also see how do we humanize this density. Because for past so many decades, people have been observing mid-rise, low-rise, high-density kind of a development. And we are now suddenly transforming into a high-rise, high-density kind of a situation with a limited time in our hand. If we would carefully see, it's not only about talking the towers, also creating all the areas around the towers or within the towers that will embrace and also enhance the community bonding and the inclusiveness and a social gathering. If we take the case study of a city of New York, which was one of the first one in terms of having a high-rise, high-density built environment right from 1930s, in recent past 5 years, they almost doubled the population. They almost doubled the square foot area in that particular limited area of Manhattan and the area around it. That was not enough. So they again created a master plan which extended into the western side of New York, where we could go to the Hudson Yard and we could see yet more high-rise buildings coming up there. And all of these buildings are fully occupied. All of these buildings are fully functional. So it's a live example as to what kind of a pressure that any megapolis, especially which is a finance hub of the United States and such cities all over the world will face. Story is no different in Southeast Asia. We could see these two towers coming up almost 1.5 decade before, Petronas in Kuala Lumpur. Very nicely developed a master plan where the footprint of the building is quite optimum. That's why a large amount of land was available for the social engaging of the people. So it's a very thoughtful master plan where a large number of people coming into the office premises have a good connect with the nature at the same time. They are in a very compact development. Uh, Now we are moving from the monocentric city to polycentric city. The monocentric city where we had the town center and we had all the things which are moving around the town center, and then the suburbs were coming for the residential development. But in today's situation, polycentric cities are more required, where people want everything within 1 kilometer from their house, may it be their school, their healthcare facility, their recreational facility, their office space, their entertainment, and so on. So there's a less pressure on commuting through vehicles, and there's a less fuel emission. So it's more sustainable and it's working perfectly fine in all the parts of the globe. That naturally further pushes our boundaries to go more taller. So thought here is a tower, that is a density, togetherness, that is a reliability. How do we make a nice confluence between both of these thoughts? I'm going to share a couple of our case studies. This is one of our projects which we are doing right in the heart of the city of Mumbai. And this particular project is very close to a 60 acre of a national forest. It's eco-sensitive zone. Similarly to what you have seen in New York, where they have a central park, and the built environment around the central park naturally has a lot of appreciation and attraction for the people to be there because they could live there with a beautiful connect with the nature. Uh, Not as big as Central Park, but around 60 acre of a land, which was habiting to our plot. And we had a task to accommodate almost 6 million square foot of a gated community with 4 towers coming in there. So this total development embraces around 1,800 families, around 3,500 car parks. And the task was very tough for us to address this without having any adverse impact on the ecosystem, which is very close to the plot. So while execution also, there are several methods that we had to embrace. That's a master plan. And actually, it's quite exciting for all the gated community to be there because they have a natural connect with the nature and they are into a built environment. Very dense master plan. Every horizontal space that we could get in this master plan is being utilized to provide green spaces. There's a vertical vegetation. There's a vegetation coming up on the podiums. There is a vegetation coming up into people's houses, in the balconies, verandas, and also on the rooftop. That's the context that you can see with the high density, high rise community living. This is currently third tallest building in Mumbai and in India, but it's the tallest building in India, whereas occupied building is concerned. That's the snapshot of a building when it was nearest completion. It has a very simple envelope where again the thought is to get a lot of daylight, openable windows where you can have a natural ventilation, you can enjoy the weather, and we could almost continue that particular forest filtering into the master plan, whereby the podium also has lots of trees. Overall, we planted more than 1,500 trees on the podium and on the ground. There are several recreational facilities, which again gives an opportunity for all age group in the family, right from the toddlers to the teenagers to mid-agers, parents and grandparents. A lot of community conglomeration spaces where people can come together. Practically everything that you need for a livelihood is available in the compound. That includes your health, your fitness, your hospitality requirements, your requirement for relaxation, meditation, and also there's a convenience shop. So people would hardly go out of the campus only for the purpose of going to work. The rest all the things are available within the compound. That's also a concept where you can have a very compact development and there's a less pressure on a people for commuting with the vehicles. The rooftop is also a great opportunity because Mumbai has a great weather and there's a beautiful stunning view all around. So these particular premises are complete. There are almost 1,400 families are living there, and they have several indoor-outdoor facilities, which is maintaining almost that community living spirit amongst all of them. So it's a vertical city, which is a need of an hour. We've tried to accommodate that by providing a very compact development. This is a convenient shopping, what is normally required for the residential communities within the compound. And of course, it has a nice biophiliac whereby the envelope embraces the nature around you. So you have a beautiful sky view, you have a nice daylight filtering into every square foot of the apartment. That's a rooftop where people can go at a height of almost 283 meter and enjoy the city view. At the same time, a lot of social gathering and the festivals can be held over there. That's the long shot from the ocean point of view. Well, I move on to my second case study. This is a mixed use project. A little different. This is coming up into a place in a city where there was no commercial space. And this is a new thing that is evolving. There is no particular central business district anymore. People are having all kinds of opportunities to have a mixed use development. This is the tallest mixed use building in country. Again, a very strategically located plot where we could have a master plan, where there's a retail at the ground, there are restaurants and hospitality at the lower level, and there's a tower springing up with a helipad on top. So it's totally a 3 million square foot of development with retail, office, hospitality, and the residential. The numbers are overwhelming. Almost 2,200 car parking, 132 families, 9,000 employees. That's an aerial shot. So it has a multiple drop-offs like how you have it on an airport, because every day 10,000 people would come and go. It's got a beautiful glass facade which allows the daylight filtering into every square foot of the building. There are lobbies where you have a large number of people coming in and going out accommodated. The footprint is very thoughtful, where you have a central core and almost 14,000 square foot of office space, which has no column or a beam, any structural interventions. And almost the daylight comes inside the office space. Every work session can have a sky view, which is very important. And every floor has a sky garden where these oxygenated plants are there, which biofilters the air and purifies the written air. A lot of engineering thoughts for vertical stacking. There's an energy center, which is in one corner that houses the DG set, transformers, cooling towers, and there are tunnels, which takes all the services on top. Vertical transportation is one of the very important aspect, because that's a lifeline for the tall building. This is Indian Green Building Council Gold rated project. Some of the snapshot of the offices which are there. And there's a signature hospitality on the rooftop, which also becomes a nice gathering space. It's got a stunning view on all four sides. There is a residential building sitting on the top of the parking garage, which has around 100 families. Every apartment has a deep balconies and the terraces. So there's also a good indoor and outdoor connect. And as we don't have space on ground, the podium tops and the terrace tops have been utilized for the recreational spaces. As I mentioned, every square foot, which is horizontal, is green. We have a clubhouse on a 14th level with a infinity pool and all kind of facilities. There's a small film that explains the project. So before concluding, I would say that future is just like James Cameron's sci-fi movie Avatar, which depicts the self-sustainable super tall home tree. This would probably be the next step after zero energy and positive energy structures, where the skyscrapers will sustain the neighboring communities by reducing the eco footprint, reducing energy consumption, reducing travel impact, reducing land use, increasing the vertical density, and which will also maintain farm and a forest land. So there's no doubt that the tall buildings and high density structures are the need of future. While designing them, our challenge is to be smart and thoughtful so that they are both sensible and sustainable. If we can do that, we can continue to keep our feet on the ground with our head in the clouds. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation. Like always, the work has been phenomenal. So thank you so much for sharing such a wonderful presentation with us. All right, on that note, let's invite our next speaker. Let's welcome architect Zakiah from Populous, Singapore. She's a design leader shaping iconic stadiums, arenas, and aviation projects worldwide. She focuses on designing spaces that respond to context, culture, and climate, creating environments that connect, engage, and inspire communities. Today, she will share how large-scale architecture can foster human connection and community togetherness. Let's hear it from architect Zakiah. A warm welcome.
Thanks, Pooja. Thanks for having me. Thanks for organizing. I don't know how I got here into an Indian audience, but I'm extremely honored and really looking forward to sharing what we have over here. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
All right, that's great. So Architect Sandeep talked about cities, talked about high rises. Now I'm gonna come in from the Singaporean perspective where we have an infinite amount of land and we have already built all the towers, right? What happens next? We all know the numbers and how large we are. This is a color coding of the number of people that we have in terms of spaces. You can see in Asia, they are more red. And you can see also at the coastal areas, it's a lot higher. Java is also really red. And if we were to turn this into an even more visual graphic where the high points are where we have the higher density areas, we have to have some kind of a long-term solution, right? And we already see this long-term solution happening in a few countries, including where I live in right now, which is Singapore. And my first takeaway of it is planning is everything. Planning is everything. All of us are architects and we love to see our creations come to life. We love to shape and sculpt and melt art and space together. But it goes beyond that. You build one, you build two, great. But then you realize that you're living on an island full of these cities. And we see a lot of this image. This is actually the bayfront of Singapore. You can see all the banks here and the rest of the residential areas behind. And it looks like, it looks like a pretty decent high-rise city, but everywhere looks like that. And this is already Singapore where you have pockets of green in and about. It's weaving, it's all right. There's a lot of breathable space. And if you've been to Hong Kong, it gets really, really tight. If you're in one of these buildings, you can literally see your neighbor and, and again, Hong Kong is an island, the Hong Kong island itself, very similar to Singapore. And a lot of its spaces are actually like not very buildable because it has mountains and hills, really steep slopes that are pretty dangerous for construction. So what are we doing to kind of resolve this? Are we going to keep building higher? I mean, in Singapore, we almost just erase buildings, older buildings, and then we build even taller ones that are more efficient. And it seems like for now, it becomes a viable solution to long-term high population areas. This is a funny sketch I did when I was a student. You gotta go to school or work and you come from a shoebox apartment, you go down to the tin can and you get packed in a bus full of a traffic jam. It doesn't end, right? Even if you take the train, it's packed. What becomes the end of this? Because Singapore, I feel, and Hong Kong has maximized a lot of our towers. We have been pushing and pushing to make everything very efficient, very multi-use. Even our sports halls are all stacked on top of each other. And somehow as kids, we are kind of alluded to this cyberpunk Blade Runner flying taxi image of the future. Does the future need to look like this? I'm not sure. I mean, are our buildings ready to take on the cable tension forces of these floating bridges? It's something for us to think about, right? Client never asked us to do, we're not doing that yet. What we can do for now, though, going to the future, is to embrace the negative spaces. What I mean by that is when we have a high-rise, high-density city, for example, like what you see here, and you have the opportunity to actually have some breathing space. All I'm saying is take a pause, allow for that to happen, allow for that to sit in, because that very space is where you have the allowance for people to come in. That's your civic community space. That's where you can build your stadiums, your co-work centers. Airports are definitely very far out from the city because you have airplanes flying in. But also, when you want to create a draw, you need to have that gap. And this is the one that radiates energy throughout the rest of the place. This is going to be what people are going to relate to when they're going to say, "Oh, I live near there," because you create that distance, it becomes so recognizable. And this is actually on an old airport. The reason why this strip that you see here is so straight is because it's reclaimed. And when it was reclaimed, it was used for Kai Tak Airport up till about 1980s, 1990s. And if you look at the old Kung Fu movies, if you landed at Kai Tak Airport, they were ironing from the window. And at some point, the planes got larger and bigger and heavier that this couldn't support it anymore. And we actually had to tell the client, you know what? Don't build anything. Don't build another 50 towers and take a risk. Let it sit. Let it become a sports park. And becoming a sports park was the best decision. I mean, look at this, right? Like, it takes a lot of bravery from the client to kind of say, hang on, okay, I'm not going to build another one of these towers because they're all competing. But a sports park is to serve everyone. What it does also at night, it offers some kind of visual respite. It says messages like "Good morning," Coldplay is coming, and this very much is similar to, if I were to put it on steroids, of course, to MSG Sphere is what we have in Vegas. This is the largest almost spherical structure in the world. It's much wider than it is tall, 2 million LED pucks. And with the MSG Sphere, right, it's literally that you have to punctuate the negative spaces with the nodal point. What I mean by that is when we create these towers, we almost only recognize cities because of the geological parameters that stop buildings from coming closer. For example, rivers or coasts or water, right? Or mountains. That's why the city that we know of, Shanghai, we know that Bay Area. Singapore, yes, we know Marina Bay Sands, because there's always water. There's something that stops the building from coming closer. So if you're wondering what this is, funny shape on the screen, this is actually the Singapore Bay. It looks a little bit unrecognizable because there are no buildings on it. But what I want to show is with everything that's wild that's happening there, you might recognize it a little bit more. In this image, if I start from the left side, you have Marina Bay Sands, and then you've got the banks and all these towers. And as you go towards the right, you've got the older Parliament, followed by the cultural centers, and then we have NS Square right in the middle. And while Singapore prides itself on all these super efficient, very economically viable banking towers, every nodal point, every negative space has their own individual identity, and they're very distinct from each other. If I were to start from the left, we have Gardens by the Bay. We reclaimed it. We let it sit for 10, 15 years where nothing happened. And then we just built a park. What kind of statement is that, right? Of course, next to it there's a casino. Yes, it more than compensated all that money. And then you go towards the right, you have the Padang, which was a political space to voice maybe unhappiness or what have you. And then you go towards the bottom, there's the Esplanade. That was Singapore's icon of 2000s, late 1990s. And then right in the middle and bottom of this is NS Square, which is the space that we're going to celebrate, I guess, Singapore's birthday, and F1 is going to go through there. And just to curate this, it's a lot of effort from everyone. And to hold back and not build more is a restraint that we all need to practice to make sure that our cities still remain livable. Now, talking about building large things, tall things, of course, the question is going to come in naturally, right? Like, how can we actually build responsibly? Are we sustainable? What is sustainable? Given the size and scale of our buildings, what is it that we do? So this is something that I ask myself personally. What is actually good design? We deal with a lot of sports arenas. We deal with audience and the atmosphere. So bringing people together and bringing things together with a strong narrative and making it cohesive, it's kind of a given, right? You bring 40,000 people together, of course, as an atmosphere. You can tighten it up if you want. But what's next? The big S word comes in, sustainability. And sometimes we get harped on about the environment because to have a timber stadium is, of course, one of my Christmas wish lists. Probably the roof can be timber, but I'll leave it at that. But the point is, given such huge buildings that we have, if you have to build a tower of steel, concrete, and glass, you can never have it, you know, not carbon, not killing enough carbon. But the question is not just the environment itself, right? To be sustainable, there are other aspects as well. There's a community, in what Sandeep showed. There's always bringing people together, providing them a beautiful, comfortable living space. And what we want is to bring the society together for a singular event that will be the highlight of your life, for example. These spaces, they also offer jobs, they become offices. That's where people are going to come in, and that's their livelihood. And this is part of progress. This is part of economic progress that we're also promising the client. You invest in this, and this is going to always be running with you operationally. We tell you how much it's going to cost, what is the affordability rate for this specific area. Say for Hong Kong, your ticket should sell for like 50, for Vietnam, maybe 35. And that's how we work with the client to make sure that everything is viable, affordable for everyone to come in. And this doesn't become a white elephant. This becomes a living, breathing icon for the client to be proud of along with you. And you say like, yes, this is architecture. This is what we're going to do to make sure that our cities keep on living again. And with that, I'll just end with an image of a master plan. You can see over here, we have like a mix of maybe mid-rises. We've got bus terminal, we've got hotel, and kind of alluding towards the middle is actually the stadium, which is Shah Alam. It's a 45,000 seat stadium. And that gap allows it to take shape to manifest the concept of connecting the LRT station, which is transport, to the mosque in the north, top of the page, to the night markets that you have at the bottom left of the page. So with that, I'll just end my presentation here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm sure all our audience members were quite excited and looking forward for the presentation, and now they are extremely happy to actually see the kind of works that you're doing. So thank you very much for that. So both your presentations highlight the power of architecture that connects people, shapes communities, and inspires engagement. Let's explore a few deeper threads in conversation before we move on to the audience questions. And I'll just, one question that I want to ask, either of you can answer, and that is, how do you ensure that your projects, even at large scale, remains human focused and welcoming? Because when there are large scale projects, it becomes quite difficult sometimes to sort of match the human touch, the human focus. And so how do you deal with that? Either of you can answer. Both of you, actually.
You want to take it first, Zakiah?
I can. All right, so we can start with Kai Tak. Kai Tak is really huge. It's a big master plan. Maybe I'll just share an image. Okay, so for us, that's like question number one. It's a given. It's not a surprise that our buildings are huge, right? And that's what we have to deal with all the time. But if you look at how we do it, we always want to curate their curate a story towards where they arrive. If you look here, most of them will actually arrive from the MTR station. And from the MTR station, we give them a covered walkway through this space, which is retail. Again, something that we are returning to the client. If you have 45,000 people that bought Coldplay's tickets, 45,000 people are going shopping before and after the game. It's a little bit capitalistic, but this is how we kind of distract the long route. Building large stadia, we always have to have like a pretty big gap so that you don't pack everything on site. You stretch the space. And then right before here, this is actually the event plaza that maybe right now, I think there's an art piece over there, but sometimes you could have like pre-shows or events or bands that are going to open for it. There are also multiple other ways to go. This, I think, I don't think they call it traditional, but this was the old runway. And this runway is actually just along where the airplanes used to land. And yeah, multiple other ways. So we actually give like little bits and bobs to highlight their path as they go along. Retail is a given, shops are a given, cafes, places to sit, shade. So all this, I think we try to add, and this is actually highlighted in red in this render to show, yep, you will go straight to the harbor as well as your final destination. So that's how we manage it.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, so absolutely, I fully agree with Zakiah. It's architecture, we say, is a creative science that combines art and engineering, but most importantly, it has to be human-centric. It has to uplift the human spirit. So in a nutshell, we say at SSA, architecture is space, people, and happiness. Your job is to design a space for the people, and if you are able to achieve happiness for the people, job is well done. So it's a natural thing that people would be more happy when they are in connect with the nature, they are in connect with the environment, which is enriched with all those wonderful five cosmic energies. So when you go for a high density, high rise projects, you are always trying to focus to see the experiential behavior of the people. For example, if I have to quickly share a screen, I can show you this master plan, which we showed you, right? Which again focuses on the surrounding, where we could focus on the biophilic characteristics which is around the site. And that's so important to capture. And make sure that people, while they are into a highly dense environment, yet they have that nature embracing them. So there's always an attempt as a designer, as an architect, to ensure that the connect of the built environment with the nature, their functional requirements, their ability to have the efficiency in the performances, may it be residential or a commercial or a mixed use, are well achieved. Safety is one of the important factor, and most importantly, have that particular connect with the nature is very important. So may it be a residential project, may it be a mixed use project, may it be a project like what Zakiah showed, is a beautiful sports arena and a stadium along with all the recreational spaces. The idea is to have that smooth transition of an indoor and outdoor connect with the functional ability of a built environment. That's what is the focus. I think that's very important aspect.
You know, Sandeep, more and more, when I look at the amount of greenery that you have in front of a development, that's what makes it even higher value, right? Because coming from Singapore, it's so hard to get an apartment not looking into someone else's shower. It's just, this is gold, you know? Like, I want to live there too.
True. That's absolutely right. I agree. And that's the reason we try to connect the indoor and outdoor. You can see practically you feel that there's a connect between your podium and the zoo next to you. Even the apartments have that kind of a connect. You can see the picture here on the right hand side, the actual picture of one of the
It's like
apartments when you're
Central
sitting. Yeah. When you sit in the veranda, you almost feel that you're in the forest, you know. So these are some of the attempts that we all try to do to give more happiness to the occupants who are there in the built environment.
But I just to an extension of what I just asked, that sometimes the environment is absolutely not friendly, especially in metro cities. And of course, Singapore also quite would agree, Zakiah would agree that sometimes the environment is just not friendly. You don't have that level of greenery, you don't have that level of sustainable resources. Then how do you sort of create that kind of a human touch despite of having these environmental challenges?
Yeah, so you cannot look at any particular building in isolation. Singapore is one of the great example. They're all statutory and regulatory provisions are looking at the city, are looking at the precinct first, and then they look at the building. If you'll see everywhere, all the buildings are barrier free. They are very inclusive. They allow the citizens and they say land belongs to the city and the FSI belongs to our developers. So there is a lot of porosity where people can move through the built environment. So first you have to improve the environment around you, as you said rightly, and then of course you can enjoy it. I mean, you cannot do anything in isolation. If there is anything going wrong with the built environment around you, you need to first correct that. That's also one of the social responsibility all of us we have.
Any thoughts that you have?
Yeah, social responsibility is a very big thing. A lot of what we do is we're looking at one building, right? And I want to say that our role or the influence of our power is dependent on our relationship with the client. If we can convince one client to kind of have a setback, have more greenery, have more planting, then we're really being a better neighbor. So it's not just a creation. The happiness part of it has to come in, because once you do this, it reciprocates. How often do we have a bungalow with a tall wall so you don't talk to the neighbor, right? So like goodness begets goodness, and it has to happen on a much larger scale for it to actually be kind of create that ripple of positive change.
All right. Sometimes the time not being on our side, we'll have to now quickly move on to the poll question. So this is for the audience members that we have two poll questions, and I would request the audience members. I'm going to talk about the poll question. We will have 4 options to it. And if I can request the audience members to quickly click on the button that they think fits to the answer. So the first poll question is right on your screens. It says, what is the most important factor in designing large-scale architecture for people? And the options are A, creating community connections, B, sustainability and environmental responsibility, C, respecting culture and heritage, and the last is innovative design and technology. So quickly, 30 seconds is what we have. If I can request our audience members to quickly choose the option that they feel fit for this question. The question I would just repeat once again, it is, what is the most important factor in designing large-scale architecture for people? Of course, our guests have extensively shared their experiences and their ideas on the same, but we just wanted to know your ideas as to what is the reflection that you have. All right, so 30 seconds are up, and let's go and see what is the majority answer that we've got out of the 4 options. And the majority is the first one, which is creating community connections. And I can see architect Sandeep really nodding his head that, oh my God, I think the presentation was quite justified. So yes, that's absolutely true. Creating community connections is extremely important in large-scale projects. All right, let's quickly move on to the next poll question. And that is, why are you joining today's session? Very, very important one. So yes, requesting all our audience members to quickly answer is only going to help us get your feedback and make these sessions more interactive, more informative. So the question is, why are you joining today's session? The first option is to learn how architecture can connect people and communities. Second, to explore socially conscious design strategies. Third, to get inspiration for future urban or large-scale projects. And the last one, to understand international best practices in impactful design. So requesting the time starts now, requesting our audience members to quickly select the option that they feel fit. This question particularly is really going to help us to make these sessions more interesting, more informative, and there'll be so much of takeaways that we can work on from the next session. So yes. I hope our audience members have given their votes. Let's see what the result is. All right. Again, the result is to learn how architecture can connect people and communities. All right. After this very encouraging note, it's time to move on. I'm sure the audience members are really waiting to get their questions answered. So we'll quickly move on to the audience question, and I will start with second. I will start with architect Zakiah. It says, which project of yours has had the biggest community impact and why? That's
So
for you.
many. If it doesn't have a community impact, we won't be here today. But I would say one of the more popular ones is actually the convention center at Darling Harbour. So this is in Sydney, and it was done in conjunction with Hassel. So this is actually a convention center. Like Populous, we don't just do stadia, we do convention centers, airports, things with like a lot of people. And the thing with convention centers like arenas, they are big black boxes. You know, once it's black, you need that size, you need to have lifts coming in. But what we did was that through careful programming, we're able to orientate such that the active open spaces were facing the harbor. And then we stepped the building so that the scale would actually be a little bit smaller towards the harbor. There were fountains at the bottom, and you know, on a hot summer's day in Australia, everyone loves water, kids love water, and the sound of that allows people to relax and come in. So I would say this is still today, it's built some time ago. One of quite successful examples of community activation, especially for a difficult building that's known for very solid facades. Yeah.
Lovely. All right, the next question is actually a common question, any one of you can answer. It says, are there any simple design ideas that can make a big difference without large budgets?
Could you repeat that, Pooja?
Yeah, are there any simple design ideas that can make a big difference without large budgets? Yes.
Well, I'll take this.
Yeah.
I think it's a very intelligent question. At the end of the day, the simple idea is to have a connect with the people, you know. So I feel it's very important for an architect and also for a proponent who's developing a built environment to have a dialogue with the people. So what we could do with the help of our clients, create a kind of a workshop and sessions with the opinion makers and the actual end users. You know, in a real estate project, it's very tough. You are designing a building without knowing a client, without knowing who would be your occupant, you know. So there's a lot of assumptions and a lot of design programming that goes on a market research and analytics. And every time it need not go in the right direction. So the simple idea would be to connect with people, understand what are their exact needs and what are the things that will make them aspirationally and functionally feel happy. And you can be a right at the first time. You know, I'll give you a very small example. When we were designing an apartment, we spoke with the housewives and the ladies, and we got 6 different ideas as to how they want their kitchen. I mean, they were so amazing ideas which we couldn't have ever thought. And each of their ideas, or each of their thoughts were so amazing and unique. We could imbibe them in our design strategy. When we spoke with the next gen and this Gen Z community, their requirement about the house is totally different. They want a very flexible, incremental house. So it kind of gives you a direction which are simpler ideas, in my opinion, and you can achieve a great design which is suitable to the needs of the end user. That's one thing that one should do.
Lovely. Any thoughts that you have? Any thoughts? Yeah.
Actually, Sandeep, when you said like speak to the users, when we have to do high performance training institutions, we actually have like 200 user workshops, and it's like really intense. But if I were to just like simplify it and contextualize it, the best kind of stadium is the one that you really cater for your client, because we do sports all over the world, right? And how you enjoy baseball is different from in the US is different from how you enjoy baseball in Korea or Japan. In US, they like their big sweet boxes and they drink inside. But in Korea, apparently you just need a little table for your chicken wings and beer. And I'm really appreciating this portion a lot, and it's making the job a lot more human even for us, because it's not just like pretty things. It's like how they're going to use it. Who are the clients that are going to move in? What kind of clothes do they wear? How do they mingle? So this is the exciting part for me. Yeah.
So the next question is also an open-ended one. It's either of you can answer. It says, how do you integrate local culture and climate into your designs?
I think that's very fundamental. I mean, architecture has to be contextual. So it's a first uh, exercise that every architect, every designer do is to understand the context. And the context is all about the people who are going to occupy the buildings that or the built environment that you are designing. And it also has a influence of a microclimate response of a surroundings. Like when you talk about different zones, architecture has to be contextual. So I think it's very fundamental. It's very, very fundamental. Otherwise, there would have been few standard designs and those would have been plugged into our various parts of the globe. So architecture is different in every zones, every state, every city, every precinct. So it's very contextual. So it's a first step that every responsible designer would do is to have a very detailed geographical, climate, socio-economical study of the local environment and then design for it.
Absolutely. All right, the next question is, glass and steel are the most commonly material for commercial and office spaces in India and also in high rise. So how can we give a touch to them without compromising on the facade and elevation? Human touch.
Are you ready for a timber skyscraper? Europe is competing for that now.
True, true. Yeah, it's again a very good question, and there is a lot of research which is going on for further studying the embodied carbon that is involved when you go for a high density, high rise structures. Timber is, of course, one of the most exciting, most relevant material. But in our part of the world, when I'm talking about India, yet there is a lot that needs to be done to go for a timber high rise structure. But we say, need is a first step of our innovation, and we'll definitely have much more exciting and much more thoughtful interventions in future. But just to cut the long story short, whenever you use any material, may it be glass, may it be steel, you need to have a deep study about that material, its life cycle analysis, its actual application, and the relevance to the kind of structure that you're doing. For example, when you use a glass, you have to be very mindful to see the properties of the glass. What is the shading coefficient? What is the U value? What is the visual light transmission? What is the reflection out and reflection in? And you have to have a deep study about all these properties of the glass. Then the glass is an amazing material. Many of the time people have a misconception or a myth that the glass is not sustainable. But if glass is used carefully, it's one of the best material that you can use for any of your buildings, may it be commercial or may it be residential. So the first step is to have a deep study about the properties of a material and its relevance to the kind of architecture that you're developing and the life cycle analysis.
All right, thank you. The next is a very interesting one, actually. It says, what kind of brief do you get from clients to make such amazing designs?
Can I go with that? So I will tie this back in with context. Working in such a huge region, right? It is just a little bit bizarre, the contrast you get from different clients. For example, if it's Southeast Asia, they want something catchy that no one else has yet. Right? So on Shah Alam, we have a sliding pitch. A lot of stadia has a sliding roof, but this will be the first one with a sliding pitch. And then if you go to the Middle East, they'll say, give me a stadium that doesn't look like a stadium. Um, so very different. And then if you go to like the UK, they'll say, "Oh, give me a stadium that represents the people." You know, a little bit more grounded. So this this is literally the brief from the clients, and because we do such huge buildings, right? It tends to become an object. We have projects in Singapore where they have to blend in, but more often than not, when they do have that space, that leg room, they do become an object, and that's when the client wants to put their name on it, their signature. Yeah.
Sandeep sir, you have any
Yeah,
thought?
I would just add to that, client always comes with the wisdom and the wish. And it's our job to translate that into a detailed design brief. And it's an intuitional perception that evolves and develops a concept. So client always comes with the wish and a wisdom, and that then translates into a design brief. Pooja, if you'll allow me, there's one interesting question which I would like to quickly share. Can you share a project where your design improved community engagement? Fantastic question. So I would like to quickly address that question by the second case study which I showed, Corridor Square. That was a mixed-use complex which was in a kind of a area in city of Mumbai where a lot of people were not really convinced that such kind of a high density, high rise mixed-use project will be well received by the community. But I'm very glad after the project is complete, it's been very, very well received by the community, not only around it, but also from the various parts of the city for several reasons. First of all, it's giving a public parking to the neighborhood. So all the congestion on the road where the cars were parked on the road, all of them went into the public car parking. So it kind of opened up, improved the efficiency of the passenger car unit carrying capacity of the road. So people are happy around it. Secondly, through a consumption, when you consume, it's not only your consume, you can also generate. So we had a sewage treatment plant where we could produce 2 lakh liter of water every day. And we created 4 auxiliary tanks and gave that water. We are giving that water free to the neighboring community for their irrigation and for their housekeeping and so on. So this is the way you can have a good impact on the community, because people could have suddenly a lot of opportunities to go for shopping, go for hospitality, go for recreation within a walkable distance. And 80% of the residents who are living in the residents there are working in the same premises for the office. So that had a good impact on the community.
Yes, thank you. So we'll take one last question, and that's for architect Zakiah. They're asking what rules are followed in Singapore concerning heights and distances between two buildings.
Very big question. It all depends. If you're from the same developer, then it's up to you how tight you want to have it. Usually there is a specific gap. But if you're two different developments, then you have to follow an angle of, say, 45 degrees from your highest point to the opposite side. And I think this 45-degree angle, you have it also in other parts of the world. Yeah, so depends on your comfort level.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sure our audience members have got their answers, such important information that you just shared. And on that note, thank you so much, Architect Sandeep and Architect Zakiah, for sharing such powerful insights with all of us. In case you want to have your closing thoughts quickly, if you wish to share, would be really great to hear it from you. Anything.
Just keep it in mind: space, people, and happiness.
Lovely. Anything from your end?
Negative spaces, also good.
Well said.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yes. All right. That brings us to the end of We See Live Season 3, Episode 13. Thank you to our incredible speakers once again, and to all our audience members who have joined us live today. Today's session reminds us that architecture doesn't just shape buildings. It connects people, nurtures communities, and fosters fosters meaningful experiences. Until next time, stay curious and keep designing with purpose. Please take care of yourself. We shall see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Check. Door lock check.
Door lock. घर का डोर लॉक किया था या भूल गया? भूल गया। घर का लॉक फटाफट से चेक करके आऊं क्या?
ले आइए गोदरेज IoT 9 डिजिटल लॉक, 9 सिक्योर एक्सेस मोड्स, ऑटोमेटिक लॉकिंग ट्रिपल बोल्ट और कई एडवांस फीचर्स। अब घर के अंदर या बाहर रहो बेफिक्र।
घर जाते ही गोदरेज डिजिटल लॉक लगवाऊंगा।
Welcome to the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, where innovation meets collaboration. GVCC is a unique platform for architects and interior designers to merge their creative visions with our innovative product offerings. We aim to cultivate a network of thought leaders, driving innovation and excellence in the industry. Celebrate your achievements with our GV's awards, recognizing innovative projects across various verticals. Join our community through exhibition visits and masterclasses to stay updated on the latest trends and technologies. Enjoy exclusive access to new products, special discounts, and tours of our Mumbai and Goa plants. Join the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club today. Be part of a community that values innovation, collaboration, and sustainability.